Pascal. You are now rocking with that dude Pascal. We be going wild, Haitian in the building, so original. Got the haters catching feelings. Get your hands up to the ceiling and keep them held high, cause St. Louis isn't ready. Forget about it, goodbye. Hold on, we just saying hi. Five somebody, rise up weekdays. Catch us live, somebody. Let's go.
Good afternoon, good evening, and good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Pascal Show. I know I was just on like 5 seconds ago, but we have somebody very, very special coming on to the show here to answer a lot of our burning questions, because we got so many of them, baby. We got a lot of them, and I'm wondering what the heck is going on here. So we got to get into this stuff very, very quickly. But before we get into the conversation, into the nitty gritty, and understanding what the heck is going on and what does this all mean, right? Be sure to hit that like button down below. Send it past 300 likes for me really quick. And do not forget to hit that subscribe button. It'd be greatly, greatly appreciated, okay? Now, remember, we have something that's very strange that has recently happened that the internet is losing their mind over right now, okay? The internet is wondering what the heck is going on. Now, Ann Taylor, who happens to be Bryan Kohberger's lawyer, she is representing him right now in his trial, basically in the trial of his life, because he could be facing the chair, for lack of a better term. Okay, we got to use these code words. But now we just found out, since yesterday, that Ann Taylor, his lawyer, was also representing Xana Kernodle's mother, Kara Kernodle, before this trial was even made. So a lot of people are wondering what's going on. Conflict of interest, so on and so forth. So we got to get into some things. I'm very, very honored to have this person on here. So we got to get into it, because she's not going to be here for a long time, but she's here for a very informative time. So please welcome, of course, a new friend of the family. Andrea Burkhart is back in the house. What's up? How you doing, sweetheart?
What's up?
Again, thank you so much for being here. How you doing?
Oh, my pleasure. Thanks so much for having me.
Oh, anytime. You know, you're always welcome here. Okay. Okay. I'm sure you've been on other places, or at least you've covered this on your own channel. Maybe you haven't. I don't know. But we got to talk about this. Okay. There was a recent situation where, let me get this up here so that people can see this again, where a lot of us are getting a little confused and a little concerned and wondering what the heck is going on. Internet reveals Bryan Kohberger's lawyer, Ann Taylor, assisted Xana Kernodle's mom, Kara Kernodle, to be exact, in a arrest. Okay, in a recreational arrest, whatever. Okay, in a D arrest. Okay. Now, from what we're understanding, from what we've heard so far, and what we are all kind of breaking down and trying to understand more of, is that she put in a request to basically be removed from that particular case so that she can be over here working on Bryan Kohberger's case. So there's a lot I got to ask you about. But first and foremost, was this, or is this, revolving around conflict of interest because of how close everything is to this case?
Clearly, that's what's implicated here. That's the concern that folks have. So fortunately, we do have very specific rules that tell us, what are disqualifying conflicts of interest and how do you evaluate whether you have one. So I actually became aware of this situation on my own a little bit more than a week ago. I had heard some of these rumors about Kara Kernodle and her history. So I went looking at those records, and I happened to see, oh yeah, Ann Taylor had been counsel of record, not just in this most recent one, but in some prior cases as well. And I do want to mention also, just from my standpoint as a criminal defense attorney, most of these charges, from my perspective, they are quite petty. This is not like serious high-level criminal enterprise stuff. Right. But anyway, putting that aside, so I did become aware of that, and obviously knew this is going to be something that people are going to have an interest in. So I did take a look at it. This is the type of situation that probably seems strange to a lot of people who are not in a small rural community, where we are often just a few degrees of separation from everybody else. And so from my perspective, we tend to have to deal a lot more with kind of the nitty gritty ins and outs of these conflict rules, because there's just a much higher likelihood that you're going to get appointed to a case where you have these, potential connections and relationships and things like that that have to be accommodated. So I have looked at this situation. I have looked at the information that's available. I've looked at the Idaho rules of professional conduct. In my opinion, there is not currently a conflict of interest, at least just based on that relationship itself. The fact that, she is simultaneously representing Bryan Kohberger and, the mother of one of Bryan Kohberger's alleged victims.
Yeah.
That relationship in and of itself may seem surprising because it may, seem counterintuitive to people. But in and of itself, that doesn't create a conflict of interest. What creates a conflict of interest is having directly adverse interests, meaning basically you are on opposite sides of a legal issue. That is not the case here. They are both defendants, against the state of Idaho. The state of Idaho is the adversary. The other situation where a conflict can arise is if there's enough of a connection between these representations that confidential information you obtain from one of your clients could potentially be something that would benefit one of your other clients. And so that puts you in a situation where you can't really fulfill your obligations to both of them, and so it's just part of the principle of being a lawyer. You don't get to pick and choose which one. Both of your clients are entitled to your duties of confidentiality and loyalty. So if those do come into conflict, there can be a problem there. But so based on the information that we have right now, which is nothing more than that there is a family relationship here, that, in my opinion, no, under the Idaho rules, is not enough to constitute a conflict of interest.
Well, it's interesting because if it's not a if it's not a conflict of interest, could this be a conflict of interest? If you get what I'm an opportunity for her to sit there and go, well, this is an opportunity to get my name on the map, letting people know who I am. And if I get this man to walk, Ann Taylor will be Ann Taylor, right? She did the impossible, the most impossible magic trick in the world, proving that there is reasonable doubt, or convincing a jury, okay, that there is reasonable doubt and that this man could walk. Could that be the other reason, though, too, that she said, this is a bigger case and I can make more money in the future from doing this one? What are your thoughts?
Well, you can never rule out, a self-serving kind of motivation like that. It's just not particularly consistent with somebody who has chosen a 20-year career in public defense. If she wanted to seek out high-profile cases and, make a name for herself, you don't typically do that by taking on, one of the most criticized and types of positions that you can have in the legal system.
Yeah, it's a hot topic. It's a hot topic. It's a hot case. The whole world is looking at it.
Sure.
And of course, obviously, somebody else said, "Oh, she could be," because I was on a show earlier, just like an hour or so ago. Somebody said something along the lines of, "This could be another Camille Vasquez situation." And in my mind, I'm like, I don't see how this could be a Camille Vasquez situation, because no matter what, he is a pariah now. He is now, he is going to be, if he walks, no matter what, this will be on him like a scarlet letter for the rest of his days. His life is basically, if he is innocent, his life is over anyway, if he's out there free. So I don't see how this could even benefit her in that way. But I'm still wondering, if there is no conflict of interest, then why would you drop that case?
Sure. Well, here's kind of my perspective on potentially how this has evolved.
Okay.
So First off, the fact that from my perspective, there was not a conflict of interest at the time that she was appointed based on the information that we know, that doesn't mean that conflicts of interest can't develop over time as the investigation continues, as more information comes in, and as the case becomes clearer. So the reason I say that I don't see a basis to be concerned about it at the time that she took on the case is because essentially the information we have at that point is from the probable cause affidavit. There is nothing in the probable cause affidavit that suggests that, Kara Kernodle has any material information, concerning the case at all. It's not clear that she has anything that would even make her a witness that would potentially, need to be cross-examined, which would incidentally put her in an adverse position to Bryan Kohberger. That would likely to be a conflict of interest. If you're in a situation where you need to aggressively cross-examine, your current client and impeach them and try to show that they're a liar or something like that. So there really isn't any indication in what we know about the case that there are any implications like that at all at this point. But of course, that can change. So yes, it's possible that as the discovery has come in, as more of the information has developed, it's become clearer that there is a risk that she is or could become a witness that would put her in the adverse position. So the other thing that I think is a factor to consider here is that Idaho is quite unusual in that they have very specific standards for public defenders, for the process that you have to go through, the qualifications you have to have, who can serve and so forth. And they also have specific caseload limits on the number of cases that the public defenders are allowed to take on. This is very uncommon. We have it in my state as well, but it's basically a response to legitimate concerns that if the public defenders have 5 billion cases that they're trying to manage, they don't have time to spend on years to give you an adequate defense. So under these rules, a capital case counts as one half of an entire full-time caseload. So assuming that Ann Taylor is, a normal practicing public attorney with a full-time caseload, taking on a new capital case means that she is going to have to reassign, likely about half of her caseload in order to stay in compliance with those standards. So I would expect, frankly, that she's probably filing a lot of these notices of substitution and withdrawals, in different cases where she's counsel of record. The fact that conflict counsel was appointed to Kara Kernodle rather than just giving it to somebody else in the public defender's office, to me reads as a precautionary measure because it is possible that these types of things can evolve. There's also the types of conflicts of interest that can arise. We're talking very specifically about the types of conflicts that go to the lawyer's ability to do their job, fulfill the duties that they have to their clients. But there are other types of conflicts that can arise as well. And some of those can be personal. If you don't trust your lawyer and you don't want to talk to them anymore, then, that type of thing can certainly create problems for the relationship. So wouldn't surprise me at all either if they're just anticipating, or perhaps even were asked, look, Kara Kernodle isn't going to like this. It's not a technical conflict. Okay. The fact that, I am representing somebody that my other clients don't like, that's not a conflict. That's not going to be grounds to get you a public defender. But if you can no longer work with me because of, your concern about that situation, then I can't do my job for you, and it's better for you to just have somebody else. So I think this is largely a situation where she's going to have to reassign a lot of cases anyway. In an abundance of caution, we'll just go ahead and bring in the conflict defender so we don't have to worry about that, down the road if something does in fact develop.
Now, what's interesting is that there, of course, in one of these articles, it's saying that she was appointed. The judge appointed her this. Now, how true is that? Just as far as when it comes to, I guess, optics, right? Because I understand that it's a small town. There's only a few public defenders in there. Some of them already have other cases or conflicts of interest, given the fact that they can't put their focus and time into that particular case, into Bryan Kohberger's case, but then you also have her and somebody else, another lawyer, that are up for the opportunity for this job, right?
Mhm.
Um, she was appointed this
Mhm.
by a judge. Did she could it have been a situation where she made a special request to say, please, I'd like to take this? You so I'm saying, how does that usually work? So everybody understands a little bit better. How does one
Yeah.
get appointed? And is it something that you are asking for, or is this judge going, okay, we can't use these two, as between these people, let's flip a coin. Oh, it looks like it's heads. She got it. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Explain.
absolutely. So in this particular case, because I think everybody is anticipating there's a high likelihood this is going to be a capital case, right? They're going to seek the death penalty or life without the possibility of parole. And so because it's a capital case, there's very specific qualifications that the attorneys have to have and processes that have to be followed to get the attorney on board. One of the rules that Idaho has for capital cases in particular is that they are supposed to appoint the lead capital qualified, death qualified attorney before the initial hearing. I know that this was something that some folks had seen that, oh, he's not even in court yet. He's just barely been arrested. They've already got this public defender on. She's already filing these motions. She filed the motion to preserve the crime scene for defense investigation. And so that is the type of thing that is actually required under the Idaho rules. They have to do it that way. So that didn't strike me as particularly unusual. Uh, she is the only attorney in Northern Idaho who is qualified to be lead counsel in a death penalty case. There's a roster that's maintained by a public defense commission in the state of Idaho for attorneys that will qualify at the trial level or at the appeal level to handle these specific kinds of cases. And they either qualify as lead counsel or as co-counsel. So she is the only one within a couple 100 miles of this area, that's qualified to take on this job. So my expectation about how this goes down is, the court becomes aware that this case is filed, likely to be capital. We got to get on, getting an attorney appointed to it. And she is the obvious choice for them to look to simply because of her proximity. They don't want to have to pay somebody, to drive 400 miles from Boise, or whatever it is, multiple times a week to do it. It increases the expense incredibly if they have to, go that far afield to bring somebody in. So in that sense, it's a financial concern, from the county that I suspect drove the decision to approach her and see if she would be willing to do that.
Interesting. I do have a comment here that I saw in the very, very beginning. But first, I want to say, Fifi Lafleur, thank you so much for becoming a member. Welcome to the family. Thank you so much. It was right off the top of the chat. But Zombie Dad said something that I thought was very interesting, and I don't know if this is true or not. Like I said, I'm not a lawyer, but we have one in the house, y'all. So Taylor had to represent him. She's the only PD there who is DP certified. Is that true? You got to be you got to have a certification for the death penalty?
Yep, you got to be on.
Wow.
You got to be on the Idaho Public Defense Commission's death qualified list, and she is the only one in northern Idaho who's qualified to be lead. There are two others who are qualified, but only as co-counsel.
So then it's not conflict of interest. This is not unethical. This is all just regular red tape BS that is typical, especially in a small town with very, very small amounts of esquires in that town. Am I?
That's my opinion, and I think it's just one of these things that if you haven't practiced in a small community, it may be difficult to have that perspective. The example that I've used is that in my area we have a fair amount of gang crime, right? And so it's very common that my Sereno clients may not be thrilled that I'm also representing Norteños, especially if there are individual histories and conflicts and stuff between them. But
right.
That just happens, that is the nature of being in a smaller area where there is just much closer degrees of connection between people. So you have to look really specifically at what are what are the potential ways in which representing one person could have implications in a case dealing with somebody else. And so that's where this kind of case focus is very important in this context of evaluating whether you have a conflict, because just the fact that people don't like each other, people are misaligned in some ways, doesn't mean you can't do your job as a lawyer and represent both of them perfectly effectively. It's only when your ability to maintain the confidences of one, maintain your loyalty to one of those clients because of the demands of the other case, that you have the conflict.
Very, very interesting. And of course, you got to remember it's still a very, very small town, everybody, that things are going to overlap each other. Potentially things can overlap each other. It just happens to be a weird coincidence that this happened. And then the mother of the daughter of one of the girls that lost their life here got caught, dealing with drug charges and everything. And it just happens to land, that particular case happens to land in Anna Taylor's lap. It's very interesting, just how the turn of events are. I can see why people are very concerned about it, wondering what the heck is going on. Because also people were putting out here wondering do they think that Anna Taylor believes Bryan Kohberger and believes that he's innocent, so wants to take on this trial and go after it wholeheartedly without any distractions. Hence the reason why her dropping this case or asking to be removed from that case. What are your thoughts on that? Because I know there's a lot of people with that kind of concern.
Well, she has a lot more information about the case at this point than we do, assuming she's gotten the discovery that she asked for. So she is, if nothing else, she's also had the opportunity to speak with Bryan. She's in the best position to evaluate, does he have a realistic shot at the exoneration, that he said he was looking for in his statement.
Mm-hmm.
So, I can't really say one way or the other. She knows a lot more than I do. I'm skeptical of any type of explanation that would kind of be in that arena of suggesting that she's looking to raise her profile, looking for fame or something like that. It's not consistent with her career path and
Right.
the positions she's in and what she's chosen. You don't choose a public defender to be famous, because the attention you get is generally not positive.
Gotcha. Yeah, it does make sense. You got a point there as far as all the, if you're talking about optics and whatnot, I'm sure because she is a good lawyer. I mean, the things that they've shown and her successes and the things she's exposed obviously shows that she's good at her job. She could easily have gone off and done some other high profile cases, et cetera, that would make her look absolutely phenomenal, right? Like a JD type of trial, sure, right? But she decided she's still a public defender, which she has to defend whoever is basically thrown at her, whether she likes it or not. That is her job, right? I got another super chat, but real quick, Rogue Mama, thank you so much for becoming a member. Thank you so much. I really do appreciate it. I do have this super chat. Let me grab this really quick before it disappears. Vicky K, and this is something interesting too, and I'm obviously hearing about this too. Thank you so much for the 10. I just got on. Did you discuss Maddie's mom also being a client of Ann Taylor? Also, it was related to recreationals, for lack of a better term. Have you heard about that? And could we expand on that a little bit?
Yeah, I just saw a report about that this morning, that there are these other connections like this. I don't think it really changes anything. It's essentially the same situation as with Xana's mom. The relationship itself doesn't create a conflict. It's just the risk of what would happen if they need to be potential witnesses or something like that. I haven't seen if Madison's mom has given any interviews, made any public statements or anything like that suggests she has any type of knowledge. Was she communicating with Maddie that night? Anything like that would potentially put her in the hot seat as a witness. Because yeah, that's an important part of the calculation in evaluating whether there's a conflict here, is the likelihood that this person is going to have something material to say in the case that, could put you in a position of having to cross-examine them.
Interesting. Yeah. Yeah, y'all. So, as much as everyone is trying to conspirize, throwing out these crazy conspiracies, making it seem like, aliens landed on top of this house and did all this stuff. It's getting to that point where we're spinning off this planet, guys. I can see the concerns. I can see the questions. I can see the burning questions, and the assumptions, right? Of she must believe that he's innocent. Then why would she drop her and go with him? Or wait, maybe there's a drug related connection here, that maybe she knows things as far as Kara Canodal. Maybe Kara Canodal knows a lot more than we know, or maybe this confirms this trap house, drug house theory and all that stuff. It doesn't prove any of those things at all. Now we're hearing that even more, we're getting that confirmed even more from Andrea being here. All those things can be laid to rest. Okay, bury them, throw them in there 6 feet under, and don't ever unearth them again, unless law enforcement or this trial comes out and says proof positive, yes, there was conflict of interest because of X, Y, and Z. But because of the small town and all these things, this is normal procedure.
The other thing, the last thing I think, I guess I would say on that, you don't choose a public defender job, a public defender career because, like I've already said, you're not looking for public approbation. You're not looking for, the big windfall payday. It's something you do because you believe in it, because it's important, because the due process is important. The presumption of innocence is important. And, you believe that is an important function to fill in society. And so my impression of this situation, of what I've seen of Ann Taylor so far, yeah, I think she pretty classically fits in that mold. And so I think there's an inclination to possibly look at it as, she's trying to protect the bigger fish, the case that's gonna raise her profile and stuff like that. But I think it's also entirely possible that she is well aware of the limitations on being able to, get him a good defender, somebody who is qualified, somebody who's, reasonably close and able to do the job and stuff, and probably does see that as her duty to do that. Like you said, you don't get to pick your clients as a public defender. For me, that's a benefit. I like that part of it. I like not being, I guess, responsible for sorting out whose interests I want to represent and whose I don't.
Right.
But that comes with a responsibility that when, your name comes up, you have a job to do. So that's my read on the situation. Obviously, I'm just one person with one opinion, but I haven't seen anything that leads me to any great alarm about this situation.
Yeah. And the thing is, yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right. As far as the whole side of things, meaning, hey, this is their job. Their job is to defend the ones that don't have the financials, I guess, to actually defend themselves. Their job is to defend whatever case is thrown in front of them, whatever file is thrown in front of them. They have to fight in the best way they can, and put all their own personal opinions, bias, etc., cast that off to the side. They have to do what they need to do, and I think that's the reason why everyone's so thrown aback from this new information, because of she was working on something else, and then all of a sudden this gets dropped in her lap, and she goes, "Bye, Kara. I'm going to be over here." And it's like, what? So I do understand the people who are very, very, very interested and very concerned. Right. Real quick, I'm going to put this up, and this has, like I said, guys, this is just rumor stuff. Okay, but I'm going to pull it up anyway, really, really quick, because I know that we don't have Andrea on for a very, very long time. So was this house a drug house? Was Xana's mom funneling drugs through her drug connections, I guess, through the house? since Bryan has a history of addictions, was he ever at the house getting those things? Now, me personally, there is nothing that proves anything otherwise. We don't know if it's true or not. These are all rumors from what I've been hearing so far. The phone call that was done on Chronicles of Olivia and the Drunk Turkey show, those are all just hearsay. All of it just rumor from a mom allegedly saying that she's the mom of one of the friends of the four that lost their lives. So personally, I don't believe it until I actually see the Carfax. But Andrea, I'd love to hear your thoughts on that too. What are your thoughts?
Oh, I'm in the same boat. I mean, there's no evidence for it, you know. Can't say that it won't happen. We'll know more at the preliminary hearing, but at this point, there's nothing to hang your hat on to suggest any of this has any validity at all. And the thing that I would point to as, you know, suggesting that it's probably not very valid is the fact that if a connection like this could be established, you know, really with anything at all, it would have been in the probable cause affidavit. When you're dealing with the circumstantial case that they have here and the need to basically draw on as many different circumstances as they can to try to show this is the guy who did this thing, that connection is a really important piece of the puzzle. So it is incomprehensible to me that they would have information like that and not include it as part of their basis for finding probable cause.
Yeah. One last thing. Question, because I know this is a conversation or a question that's being circulating now even more. Do you think this will be a death penalty trial?
Yes. I think if it isn't a situation where they've obviously bought themselves some time, you know, before the preliminary hearing because they want to be fully informed. They want to have time to, you know, run out some of these investigations, do their own review, basically assess the strength of the case before they get to that point. And my personal opinion is that that's probably because they, you know, well, they have to, as part of a defense attorney's, capital defense attorney's job. One of your functions at this stage of the case is trying to convince the prosecutor not to seek the death penalty. Okay, you're doing mitigation work right now, but part of that is also, is this going to result in some kind of plea? You know, I think we may have talked about this before, that is in many ways a desirable outcome for the state. It may not be the perfect outcome, you know, it may not be exactly what everybody wants to see happen. If he doesn't end up, you know, with a death penalty, he doesn't end up with a life without parole sentence or something like that. But you know, it saves them the uncertainty of, you know, possibly losing the case at trial, and obviously the expense and everything that goes into bringing it to trial in the first place. So I think it's probable that kind of conversation is going on. If it turns out in the coming months that the state has a super strong case that he is, you know, very likely to lose at trial, wouldn't surprise me to see a plea, you know, maybe even before the preliminary hearing. But yeah, I think if the case does go forward and if he intends to fight it, then yeah, I think there's very likely to be the death penalty implicated.
Obviously it's inevitable in my personal opinion. I mean, obviously I'm not, I'm not a lawyer, but, and I don't know the law that well, but I'm assuming that of course they're going to be pushing and working towards that without a shadow of a doubt. Given the fact that is a state that uses the death penalty, especially something so bad, and the details that only prosecution and maybe the defense knows, only that law enforcement know, those gruesome details will come out during this trial. When that does come out, you will see why they are pushing for the DP. But I feel like it's inevitable for sure. One last question. This is kind of fun. King Bob, thank you so much for being a member for the past 3 months. It's a member chat. He says, ask Andrea how we can get those fish behind her that her friend makes. So I'm told. That's what they would like to know. Do you know where they can get them?
Yeah, it's at Heidi Elkington on Instagram. Shoot, I wish I could drop a comment and leave it. But yeah, it's a friend of mine. These are metal art that she did. She does plasma cutting and just all kinds of cool stuff with metal. She also paints and draws and stuff. So phenomenal artist. I love her to death. At Heidi Elkington on Instagram. Hit her up. See what she's got.
There you go. So you guys can go and get those fish from her. Okay. So go and check that out by all means. Now, real quick, guys, I know we got to let her go and we got to wrap up this show, but I want to say a big thank you to Andrea for being here. Also, please go and check out her channel. All right. Andrea Burkhart, her YouTube channel. She does a lot of really great work. And of course, she's been doing some really great things, hopping on to so many other channels, so many other shows as well, and just dropping in her legal expertise. Again, Andrea, thank you so much for hopping on with us here and chopping it up with us. Because, we need more information and more understanding, because I know a lot of us go crazy, lose our minds as soon as that information, something new, bombshelly-ish, pops off. That's when everybody starts losing their doggone minds, right? So I'm happy that you were able to come in here and explain those things. It's a nothing burger, guys. It's a nothing burger. So nothing unethical. It's totally normal. And now we can lay that one to rest. So and we are able to do that because of Andrea being on here. So again, Andrea, thank you so much for being on.
Hey, opportunity to be able to kind of interpret some of this legal process for people that don't have the background with it, you know, the law school degree and all that stuff. So it's really my pleasure, and I appreciate you having me on.
Of course. You're always welcome here anytime. But I'll be talking to you soon. All right.
Thank you so much.
All right. Bye. Again, guys, thank you guys so much for coming in and watching. This was a flash live show. But this was a conversation that I feel like was really, really necessary for us all to have so that we can have a better understanding of what to expect. All of us have been losing our doggone minds over this. Man, you know how many emails and DMs I've gotten from you guys about this. Real talk, over the past 24 hours. It's been pretty insane. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to talk about this. I'm going to try to get somebody who's an expert in this game that can explain a little bit more for us so that we have a better understanding of what this means and if it's something that we should be going, oh my God, clutch my pearls. But unfortunately, fortunately, it is not a clutch my pearls situation, ladies and germs. Okay? Nothing to be worried about. We okay. We gonna be all right. And I do believe that Ann Taylor is gonna do the damn job. She's going to do the damn job, and I think she's going to do it to the best of her ability. Do her job, which is to represent this guy and fight for him. That's it. We should be more worried about what's going on the prosecution side and what they have. You know, if we want this alleged guy to stay behind bars, and if we do believe that this guy's the bad guy, that's what we should be focusing on. That's just what I think. Let's focus on prosecution. Let's find out what the evidence is. Let's find out more information that can really expose BK. Let's get BK. Let's get his ass in the scene of the crime, because we have yet to do that yet. Like, we have yet to get him physically there. Okay? So let's look into that and focus on that for now. Okay? So I appreciate all y'all for being here. I will be back on in a little bit. I got another conversation with former FBI agent Jennifer Coffindaffer. She's going to be on with us in just a little bit. I'll be back on around 2 p.m. Central Standard Time. So be on the lookout for that show. Like I said, today's a big one. Okay, I missed yesterday, so I'm doing a bunch of catch up, but we do have a really great conversation with her going on today in just a couple hours. So tune in. That's another one for you guys live right here on the Pascal Show. Okay, so please do me a favor, hit that like button down below. Be greatly appreciated. And do not forget to hit that subscribe button. I'll be seeing you guys very, very soon at 2 p.m. Central Standard Time. We have former FBI agent Jennifer Coffindaffer in the house live to talk about this case and many, many more. And I still have a 7 o'clock show tonight. So be sure to be on the lookout for that too. It's about a completely different story and a different topic that we definitely need to talk about here. Okay? So anyway, guys, I'll see you guys very, very soon. Be good to yourselves. Be good to one another. See you guys shortly. This is The Pascal Show. Bye.